Yes, we got it. We are on YouTube. Yes, we are live on YouTube. Hello,
Wonderful.
everyone. Welcome to Astro Night Live. Today with me is our special guest, Margaret. Hello, Margaret. How are you?
Hi, Rod. It's wonderful to see you. I'm over here in Spain enjoying the beautiful weather. So, of course, I'm in wonderful, form chatting to you this evening.
I'm so envy. I'm really envy about the enjoy the sunshine. But I know that every time when people talking about, oh, you freelancers or you can working anywhere. Yeah, I will very proudly say yes. But this summer I'm trapped a little bit. I need a rest. But so I'm very envy. All my friends are flying here, flying there, and I'm just like, that's all right. Soon I will be.
You will be. And Rod, I was thinking about you the other night because I was looking at the stars. There's a beautiful clear sky. There aren't a lot of light.
Yes.
And so I was thinking of you the other night. I thought, oh my goodness, Rod would love it here.
Oh, definitely. Anywhere have a beautiful, nice sky, I will be like crazy about it. Yes, Spain is a very nice place to look the to do the stargazing. There's so many places in Spain we can enjoy that stargazing. Especially, my favorite spot would be the La Palma and Tenerife. But I think these both places at this moment have a little bit problem with the wildfire. So I was still thinking it would be very careful to go there or not going to not going to make more trouble for people. But
Of
talking
course.
about that today, because our topic would be the Mercury retrograde, because very soon Mercury is going to retrograde, and I know that some people talking about say astrology become more and more popular because on the social media, you will hear a lot of people talking about the Mercury retrograde. And even people who never study astrology will talking about something about the Mercury retrograde. I mean, the did you notice that situation at this moment?
Totally. Lots of people will say, even just in common speak, they'll say, oh my goodness, my computer isn't working, is Mercury retrograde. So I agree with you. Although, Rod, I don't know if everybody really fully understands what that means.
Exactly. Because it become a social phenomenon, and it's kind of a cool or in or funny thing to say, which I don't mind. But always, if you are talking about something, you better have some idea what are we talking about. So, well, I know people usually sometimes scared about astronomy, but usually when we are in the classroom, we usually have to learn, right? With like a greatest elongation here, greatest elongation there, and this and that, and we would just like, oh my god. So today, I will just simplify, use the everyday language to talk about what does Mercury retrograde mean. The first, we all know all the planets orbit the sun, including the Earth. Okay, so we all go one direction. So there is no planet that will go another direction. So indeed, if we look from the solar system view, there is no planet go retrograde, move backward. That's 101. So it doesn't really happen, but it happens when we look from the Earth, when we look at the planet movement from the Earth, and sometimes between the other planet like Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and so on, their relationship with the sun, their cycle with the sun, that will have the moment that when we see them, they slow down and then they start to move another direction. For the Venus and Mercury, so-called inner planet, or it would be more likely is part of their yearly cycle with the sun. When they move to like these two planets, when we look from the Earth, when we look at it from the Earth, like Mercury will not farther away than 28 degrees from the sun, either side of the sun. So when they reach these limits, it will look like they're slowing down, or sun catch it up, or they move backward and toward to the sun. This is the basic view, is because we look at from the Earth, and there is a retrograde motion. Next time, if we are going to talk about Mars retrograde, that will be another story. That's totally another story. So how does astrologer know Mercury retrograde? Well, if we are ancient astrologer, we need to learn how to calculate it, or we have to observe. We have to observe. The first thing is very easy. When the Mercury becomes so-called evening star, when Mercury becomes the evening star and hanging high up in the sky, you know very soon it will be retrograde. Okay, that is the key 101. And second thing, I'm going to teach everyone how to use ephemeris, okay? Because for astrologer, we all learn how to use ephemeris. So today, I'm going to teach. Sorry, Margaret, I hope I'm not going to just like make you smile at the sitting there.
Totally good. You know, something that struck me, Rod, is that we're talking about communication and miscommunication.
Yeah.
And you're describing how Mercury seems retrograde from our perspective on Earth. And communication is all about perspective, isn't it?
Yes,
so
yes, exactly.
Interesting.
Thank you for bringing that out. We will definitely focus on that part later because it's so interesting. It's about perspective. So it's all about your point of view, your perspective, how you see the thing. It may not real happen like that, but it will cause some illusion or misunderstanding there. So let me quickly show you how to use ephemeris, and then we will go to the interesting miscommunication. So bear with me for 1 second. Yeah. So, well, do you know where you can find the ephemeris on internet? Astro.com is a great website. Well, they don't pay me money. Even they pay me money, but I'll be so happy. But they don't pay me money. But they are one of the best websites for all
they are, and they're free. So it's fantastic. Yes.
Fantastic. There's a lot of article, and there's a lot of tool, and there's a lot of that you can make chart around it, and you can even draw the astrocartography. Okay. Today I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, and not Margaret. Margaret already know how to use it.
That's okay. Always good to revise. Always good.
So when you arrive at astro.com, okay, you just start to scrolling down. Oh no, I already here. Okay, when you let me go back. So once you are in astro.com, you scrolling down, you will see a symbol. They show you the ephemeris here, 9,000 year ephemeris. Click, and then you will have seen, they have the 9,000 years, so you have to remember what century we are. Sorry, we're in 21st century, not the 19th century. Okay.
Well, we are Mercury in shadow, Rod. So you know it's not easy to remember anything at the moment.
I would say 19th century. No, that's too far. Okay. So then find the year we are, or find the year you were born if you want to check your birthday. So we are in 2023. I have to be very careful as Mercury approaching the retrograde situation. So now let's scroll down to the August. So you will check, okay, first thing, okay, let's scroll down to August, and you will see how to read the ephemeris. Okay, on the left-hand side is the date, and you have a date and a week. Well, SIDT, that's sidereal time. You don't need to know that until I teach you how to draw the chart. Okay, then we have Sun, Moon. Now you see the Mercury, little Mercury here. Then you will start to see it. When you're scrolling down, this is the August, and you will see on the 24th of August, you will see Mercury has a symbol R, marked as R here. This is a Mercury retrograde. It tells you from this day, Mercury start to retrograde. And at what time? Okay, this is the problem. Here, as the ephemeris, you always use 0 UT, and that is with Greenwich standard time. So you use it, and it's midnight. Okay, so it's from midnight. But this Mercury can retrograde maybe from day before, but this is tell you by the midnight of 24th of August, Mercury already retrograde. Okay, how to judge Mercury retrograde and the stationary? Well, stationary period will happen before and after retrograde. When it begins to retrograde, it will stop, it will stand still, and then turn retrograde. So each astrologer have different views. Most software is calculated by something like the motion of Mercury moves least than maybe like what 5%. Anyway, well, what I learned from the faculty is that for the Mercury, we look at degree. So we know Mercury retrograde at 21 degree. Okay, so since Mercury moved into the 21 degree on the 20th of August, then we will say this would be the Mercury start to stationary because he's arrived the point it turned retrograde. Until the 28th, Mercury still stayed into 21 degree and then retrograde to 20 degree. Okay, this is the where Mercury start to retrograde, and then usually Mercury retrograde will last for 3 weeks, 21 days each. So just let us just move to September. You will see here on the 16th of September. So we know it's from 24th of 24th, right? Yeah, 24th of August to 16th of September. Mercury is retrograde at 8 degree Virgo. You will see at 8. So also the same, that from the 13th of September to the 19th of September, we consider Mercury stationary. Okay, consider Mercury stationary. Okay, so here is how to use ephemerite to understand from what date to what date Mercury is retrograde and how to calculate stationary, because
Rob,
ancient,
can I just say something? How I often describe stationary to students is, imagine you're driving a huge heavy truck.
Yes.
And you've got to put the brakes on. It's like you're putting the brakes on, and before you go backwards in order to reverse, there's that moment when you're kind of in between, and that's really what it feels like. So there's still that weight you can feel, and the same when you're going backwards and then you start going forwards. So it's just a visual that I have that I thought might be useful.
Thank you very much. That's lovely, because you know one thing, most people drive, but I don't drive, so I couldn't use that term. But most people know, totally understand what you're talking about. But even I don't drive, but when I sit in the car, I know when people put the brake on, they have to look around, you know, before they really, you know, move back.
And there's a momentum, you know.
Yeah, there's a momentum there.
And I think that's what it feels like. It's that odd time, and it's a very uncomfortable time. It's actually, I think the stationary is the most uncomfortable time, where it feels like the energy is very concentrated.
I agree, 100% agree with you. And I think at least Monday when I chatting with Christine Skinner, I think the video already on the YouTube, Christine talking about the Mercury retrograde, and she say in the financial astrology, we are more focused on stationary period, especially the day, the 24 hours between either side of the day it turn retrograde is usually intense. It's usually intense. We don't really worry about every day during the retrograde, but when they change the course, when they change the direction, that is intense. So if you are interested about what Christine said, please check her video on our channel. But thank you, Margaret, to bring out that like the driving car scenario, because it is so vivid. It's like, oh yes, most people, if they drive a car, they will totally register what you're talking about, because and most people talking about stationary, talking about retrograde, but least people, I think maybe more like a professional astrologer, will focus on stationary, because that is real topic, and that is intense. And I know in the modern astrology, we talk about a stationary planet more like what we focus on. What the planetary theme? How do you see it, Margaret?
I would certainly kind of look out for the stationary periods as being more intense. But one thing I also wanted to add to just when you were talking about, retrograde and what it means, that this is a rather unusual time, because not only is Mercury retrograde, but we're going, every planet except Jupiter and Mars are actually going to be retrograde. And in fact, when Venus comes out of retrograde at the beginning of September, Jupiter goes retrograde.
Yes.
So we're in an extraordinary time. And as you know, I do a lot of relationship work. And, when Venus is retrograde, that really impacts relationships in terms of, because Venus is all about our self-value. And it's also about what do we desire, what do we find beautiful, what do we find attractive, how do we relate to others. So during this retrograde time, we've had quite a long spell of kind of feeling that energy is inward, and psychologically retrogrades are very inward energies. So to add to the mix the Mercury as well feels like really a double whammy in terms of relating to others.
I really like this. I thank God I did learn the modern way to interpret the chart. If not, I might be, I maybe would like most people just like, why everything against me? Why the whole world against me? Why I want this, but it's not going to happen? Why I want that, is not going to happen? Like, especially Venus retrograde is not, it is about love, it's about the relationship, it is about friendship, but also how we love ourselves and how we enjoy ourselves. And one thing, let me share with you. I think most people already know that I'm on a special diet after surgery. So there's a lot of things I couldn't eat. But you know how
my heart goes out to you. The Italian part of me, my heart goes out to you, Rod. I'm so sorry.
And yes, so when I see the delicious food, I was just like, why couldn't eat them? Why couldn't eat it? Oh my God, that is so unfair. But if I thinking another way, think deeply. What does that mean for you? For you, is that really, is that really the food with salt and fat and deep fried means something, or the food should be tasted like a different way? And I learned to try different way to enjoy the food. I still enjoy it, but not like before. But at least it's to give you more time to think about what we value, especially with Venus retrograde during this time.
Well, it's again, sorry, you were saying, it's about valuing what you value. And for you, your value is your health, your well-being. And so that comes first. And it's kind of interesting because, Venus is in Leo. So it is about feeling good about ourselves. It's retrograde in Leo. But with Mercury going retrograde in Virgo, it's really also touches on all the issues of health and well-being. It's like, what is the most efficient way for me to keep myself, in the best possible state of health and well-being? So those two could work really well together.
Yeah. So also, I noticed Margaret is I know you are very, very, I know you are a psychotherapist, but also when you talk about astrology, you are more talking about in the relationship. And so the communication is very interesting, because if we ask people about the communication, most people is thinking about, are we competing each other? Or are we good for each other? Are we going to have a good relationship? And then people were talking about the Mars, talking about Venus, talking about Sun, talking about Moon, but they always overlook the very pretty, cute Mercury.
I know, little Hermes gets ignored. I mean, it's extraordinary. And yet, to me, it's like he's crucial. I mean, it's crucial. Actually, Hermes is the first non-binary kind of energy that we really talk about, or the only non-binary
100%.
energy that is openly acknowledged. So it's they, and they are an amazing energy because they are the bridge to everyone and everything. You and I wouldn't be sitting here doing this if it wasn't for Hermes, for Mercury. So I mean, relationships could never start if it wasn't for Mercury, because our connection is how we communicate. And if you think of the different stages of relationships, think of when you first want to meet somebody, you want to start dating, it's about communication. Then you get to know somebody, it's communication. Whether you fall in love with them or not is all about communication.
Yeah.
And then whether you form a kind of more ongoing solid relationship is also because of communication. And why people often fall apart is because of communication.
Again.
So Mercury is kind of the linchpin, really, of relationships. And it's so interesting because Mercury is also associated with siblings. And when you think about sibling relationships, I'm an only child. Do you have siblings, Rod?
Yep. We are
Okay,
very close.
Oh, that's wonderful. So you know that in a way, you know, it's like siblings learn how to relate to their equal, their peers with each other. Because
Yes.
parents have power over, teachers have power over.
Yes.
And the interesting thing is that for only children, whether we have Mercury retrograde or not, most of us who are only children have to develop a more internalized Mercury, because unless we're exposed to a lot of children, maybe through childcare early in life, we don't have siblings to develop that mercurial function. So it's not better or worse, it's just different.
Different way, yeah.
And that's the same with Mercury retrograde. When I describe to clients or to students is, it's not better or worse. It's just using Mercury in a different way, back to perspective. So rather than being used to, and especially with social media, we're so used to externalizing everything. I mean, people put, you know, their breakfast, lunch, and dinner, everybody they met on the street, every conversation they had, you know, every date, it all goes on social media.
Yeah.
And then suddenly during the retrograde, you notice that people get a little quieter. It's like the energy goes more inward, and it's an opportunity to really connect with ourselves. But also, if we don't take the time to go inward and connect with ourselves and really think through what we want to communicate, the words that come out may not kind of flow as easily, and hence miscommunication, because we're trying to push an inward energy, we're trying to outwards to externalize it when it's not quite ready to come out yet. Which is why I usually say to people, it's such a wonderful time to edit books, to really do all the R's: revisit, review, reconsider, reconnect. So yes, go and connect with old friends, you know, reminisce.
Yeah. It is very interesting. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Because I mean, as a freelancer, I spend a lot of time on my own, and only recently, to be honest, for the last couple of years, I started to work a lot on social media, and that is, I noticed how many people spend their time on the social media and keep verbalizing, talking about it, and that's just. When what you just mentioned about the take time to sit down and to absorb, to review, to see, I just suddenly a experience come back from before. I used to working on a TV production house, so that is 24 hours. So working for the those the news and the shows, and it consumed time to make all that video. People notice my video is that they were editing because I'm so lazy. Because I know, because that would touch my shadow. When I was 20 years old, I have to do all those things, working on editing, cut this off, and I record a whole day's video, and finally just cut in 1 hour. And you just like, what a waste of time. But also interesting is because during that time, every day I working maybe like 12 or more than maybe 18 hours. It's just keep writing things out, send the message out, talking in front of camera. There's no time. By the time I get home, I just exhausted. I want to sleep. So there's no there's no input. It's only keep out. And suddenly one day I just like, I feel empty. Very, very, very empty. I have nothing to say, and even when I say, I have no idea what I'm talking about. It's just, what are you talking about? Remind me that time I finally quit the job, although it was a fancy job. People said, wow, you're working for biggest production house. I said, no, I think I sacrificed too much.
Yeah, because it sounds like it's all that outward journey. And people forget that Mercury is a bridge, and bridge has two sides. So information needs to come in. We need to create the space. And then we also need the space, particularly with Mercury in Virgo. Virgo is all about the digestive system.
Yeah.
So we need to really allow time for information to kind of be processed and digested by us. And I think that's one of the things that can so often, when I'm working with couples in either couples therapy or relationship astrology, one of the things is really to help them to learn to listen to each other, and not just to listen ready to react, but to listen and to process and to then feed back to the other person. Is this what you said? Because again, back to perspective, what they're hearing is through the lens of their own Mercury. They're not hearing what the other person is really meaning. And particularly if people have natal Mercury that maybe is an aspect to Chiron, or they have a Saturn in Gemini or a Chiron in Gemini, there can be a sense in the natal chart of it's a struggle to feel understood. And so it's so important when their partner or their friend or their family reflects back to them and just checks with them. And it gives an opportunity for incredible intimacy, because somebody feels heard and can say, actually, that's not really what I meant. What I meant is this. And that in itself creates a trust and a connection between the two people that really deepens the relationship. Because, what I find is incredible, Rod, is that so many people assume that if somebody else loves me, whether it's my sibling, my parent, my friend, then they know exactly what I mean. And particularly cultures that are not great at expressing feelings, I'm thinking of northern cultures like Ireland or whatever, there is this assumption, well, if I'm in a relationship with you and you love me and I love you, then I should know what you mean and you should know what I mean. And I mean, Mercury retrograde, that all falls apart. So it's so, when couples realize that actually it's okay to say to the other person, is this what you mean? And they can say, no, it isn't, or yes, it is. And then they can add on to it. Otherwise, we're creating stories in our head. And Virgo is very precise. Virgo likes to it likes to distill things. It's very discerning. The thing I would say about Mercury in Virgo, particularly retrograde, to be very careful of self-criticism. Virgo can be incredibly picky with ourselves, with each other. I've got Virgo rising. I know that about myself. And it's a tough one. And I would really encourage, what I say to clients is, try and substitute discernment for criticism, and also add in self-compassion. Because I think when we add self-compassion, when we add it in for ourselves, it becomes much easier to have it for the people in our lives, and it softens everything. And you can notice in a room, with a couple, that when that compassion enters the space, everything becomes softer, everything becomes easier. And people suddenly realize, oh my goodness, they said that because from their perspective, that's what they meant to say, but that's not at all how I understood it. And that's where the healing starts.
Yeah, it's very beautiful, because in the everyday's life, also in the couple's life, we are like you say, most people will just like, oh, you should understand me, you should know me, or I will presume that I know what he means, even without confirm, even without the further discussion. Say, what do you mean about this and that? I would just say, oh, I know what you mean. Okay, I would totally just like could be end up totally misunderstood. Also because like as a foreign living in UK, English is not my first language, and that would even more created, the different cultures things that when you communicate to each other, that would also easily happen, right?
Yes, absolutely. I work with a lot of couples where people are from different cultures, different languages, everything. And all of those, it becomes even more important to really, both walk across that bridge and kind of just meet each other in the middle and share. And during this retrograde period, it's really a time also for whatever relationship people are in, however close you are, to really take some time out for yourself, to really sit back and think, how do I process information? Where do I get my information from? Am I listening to what my family is saying about my partner rather than actually my experience of them? Or am I being influenced by, the neighbors next door? Am I worried about what people will say? So it's a wonderful time to really step back and to go a little bit deeper, to really do a little bit of self-analysis. And of course, I would say that I'm a therapist, but I think the retrograde really gives us, especially in Virgo, encourages to spend some time alone. Just some quiet time. And it doesn't mean you sit in silence, in a yoga position. It just means go for a walk in nature. Nature is so connected to Virgo, the environment.
Yes.
And earth signs love nature. It's so comforting.
Yeah.
And just do a little bit of a review of, how do I, do I listen mostly to people, or do I talk a lot? What are my listening skills like? How do I let the people in my life that I love know that I'm really hearing them and listening to them?
Yeah.
And check with the people in your life, check, do you feel heard by me? Do you feel I really get you? Because that's so important. And it's a question that somehow we don't often ask the other person. Again, we're almost embarrassed to ask that.
Yes. I 100% agree with you. Maybe like even for friends or for partners, even more, because we always like presume they should understand us or we should understand. So we are too embarrassed to ask. Like for example, I just have a wonderful example here. I just noticed, Margaret, you put she, her, your pronoun behind the name, and this is a trend for nowadays. When we meet each other, people usually put the pronoun behind, and I didn't put there, but I just said because presumably people will know I'm a whatever, he, him, or they, them. But this is an interesting thing, is about to confirm and to not make assumption about what you see is what you get. And for example, this she, her thing here, it's just like if you want to ask, most of the time, like I remember there's one time we're talking about, if people don't know how to refer your pronoun, what should we do? You say, I remember you say ask.
Yeah. I mean, really, Mercury is all about, when you think of all the mythology around Hermes, the trickster, and Hermes is it's that kind of ability to be fluid, not just gender fluid in every way, and to really break down those binaries of I'm right or I'm wrong. And I think it's that fear that stops people. It's like, oh, if I don't get it right, then it means I got it wrong. And actually, there's a huge area in the middle of kind of like, let's check it out and let's be creative with this, and let's ask the person to self-define themselves, let's invite them to, so that the person might give it some thought, and they mightn't have thought of it before. I find sometimes I'll say to clients, how would you like me to address you, or the person in your life? And not to assume that it's just one person they're in a relationship with. They may be in a polyamorous relationship. So all of those things, to just ask, and people kind of, their face usually lights up because it opens the space. So maybe during this time of the retrograde, to really consider all those things, consider how you phrase things, how you communicate with people. And it's such a good time to really, and also don't forget to reconnect, with maybe people you haven't been in touch for a long time. And it's interesting because, both Gemini, of course, and Virgo are ruled by Mercury, and Gemini is a little bit more about friendships. I think Virgo is a little bit more within ourselves, and it's also those connections. And just to address the issue, clients will often ask me, oh my goodness, is it okay to get married during a retrograde? Is it okay to get engaged? People panic. And I always say, yes, but really kind of be aware that you need to just double check everything. Make sure the contracts, all the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, because we're in that inward phase. And so we may not pay so much attention to the external.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's really,
yeah, I think this is an important thing. Does not mean as an astrologer, I always tell student and the client or even reply people on the social media they would say, oh, I heard about Mercury retrograde, so should I starting this or that? I would say, well, if you have to, you have to. Because you couldn't say, well, it's Mercury retrograde, I'm not going to pay my bill.
yeah.
This
Yeah,
is not going to happen.
that's a really good idea, Rod. Actually, I hadn't thought of that. We could all, yeah, that could become a trend on social media. No bills to be paid
Start
during
writing my bank, my credit card company, a bank say it's
I
Mercury
love
retrograde.
it.
I'm not going to pay my bill. Bye.
Yeah,
Next
that's
month.
it. You realize we're going to be sued now for saying this. We will have
Okay.
all the companies.
That's what I say. We couldn't avoid it. Oh my God, you just worry me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we couldn't avoid that. So just be more careful to make sure the things you do are exactly what you want and the exact number, exact date, and you didn't really just like put one more zero in or something, Just be more careful and double check because ask or double check. If you don't know, ask. And if you know, double check. And that is what beautiful of Mercury retrograde. Because to be honest, I thought as an astrologer for so many years, I definitely know everything about the Mercury retrograde. But you know what? Today, when I chat with Margaret, I was just like, oh my God, there's so many things already on my to-do list. I want to have more time to reflect myself. I want to double check how I communicate with other people, and what I think, how I when I think about another person, is that my opinion or I take it from somewhere else, and that is so rich. I think it's very interesting time, but not just you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that, and this would be bad, that would be bad. I think, well, yeah. I mean, for beginner, that would be easy way to remember things, but that is not a very, very good way to apply this because astrology is so beautiful.
Absolutely. And Rod, it's been such a joy to talk to you about this. It's always so much fun to connect with you and chat about the planets. And thank you to everybody who's tuned in to hear us. And if you've got any questions, just put them in on Rod's YouTube channel
Yeah.
and we'd be happy to address them.
Oh,
And
definitely.
enjoy Mercury retrograde.
Yeah, thank you, Margaret. I mean, this is so fun to chat Mercury retrograde with you, and also we are focused on the one thing has maybe been ignored in the relationship, communication, and that could be the key. Sometimes with a little bit, just confirm with each other, just double check with each other, not make assumptions about you should know me. I heard about so many times about that and cause a lot of problems. If you can use this Mercury retrograde time to double check, to say a little more, to think about a little more, and that would maybe bring, relationship to another level, would be more beautiful. Thank you, Margaret, and thanks everyone today joining us to share your idea and share your time. And if you have any question or any feedback, please put on the comment area. And next time when me find the time with Margaret to chat again, we will bring those things, we'll answer those questions. Thank you, Margaret, and enjoy your sunshine.
Thank you so much, Rod. Have a wonderful rest of the evening. Lovely to see you as
Thank
always.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye,
Bye, everyone.
everyone.
Bye bye.